Ladies and gentlemen, the FootballScoop Podcast is back, and I am super excited because just like I told these two gentlemen, every week gets better. I don't know if you guys have taken a quick peek at this weekend schedule. I know you have because you've submitted your picks already. Whoo, buddy, we're about to get chaos, mayhem, beauty, everything. Perfect timing for CFP to release their initial set of rankings because there's going to be some movement. We got Vols, Georgia, Alabama's got an easy one in Tiger Stadium. Okay, we're going to talk about this. Football Scoop Podcast. I am Scott Roussel. I've got college football experts, Zach Barnett, John Brice. I'm very excited to tell you we got football tonight. We also had football the last 3 nights, 4 nights, 5. We've had football for like 6 straight nights, and we got it again tonight. Maction, good to have you back. Tuesday, Wednesday football. Thank you very much. Tonight, UTEP Rice, App State Coastal. It's going to get weird. We're going to get weird, and I love it. I think the NFL plays too, but no one really cares. I'm kidding. App State Coastal. Let's start there, gentlemen. Both teams kind of putting it back together. Both teams kind of had a little Coastal had that inexplicable loss right there, 7-1. They had an inexplicable loss to
Old Dominion.
Golly. Woo. Oh. Anyway, they're trying to run to 8-1. App's coming to town. I'm telling you, App gets weird on Thursday nights. It ain't in Boone, thank goodness for your boys over there on the coast. But thoughts on this one real quick?
Yeah, it's a great Thursday night matchup. I think Vegas has installed App State as a slight favorite in this contest, which blows my mind. I would say this is another audition opportunity for Jamie Chadwell and potentially with the Georgia Tech job. And what he's done at Coastal in short order is really remarkable. I picked Coastal in this game, but it was haunting me in the back of my head that I had a buddy point out to me that Vegas has favored App in this contest for one reason or another.
I'm clearly I'm alone in last place in our picks contest. So take what I'm about to say with a gigantic salt shaker worth of salt. But if App is a favorite, I'm running to take Coastal at home. I mean, I think they're the Old Dominion loss. I can't explain that performance, but they've been the better team all season long, and they're at home. So what am I missing?
I'm on App. App wins the game outright.
Okay.
So now that we've brought up picks, John Brice just stretched his early lead, felt good, beating his chest a little bit. I liked setting him up for that. He was in a really good place. I think he was up like 10 games at one point, just killing people. Zach still might be 10 back. Mm-hmm. Okay, so
I don't think I was ever up 10 games on the field. Maybe on an individual.
You probably were.
And last week, I got a little loose. I got a little crazy on purpose. I was the only one who had the fortitude to pick Iowa State, the underdog, and to pick Texas A&M to plant its flag. And so I took some risks. I'm okay with that. It gets boring when the view never changes out front.
Okay, so I'm just letting y'all know this is the week where I take over first place from John Brice.
We've never heard that before.
Picks are in.
So you made your picks off mine, is what you're saying?
No. The picks are in. The picks are published. The picks are out there, buddy.
I know, but I'm saying you got my picks and then you made your picks.
No. I looked at the picks for a second, and I'm looking at them right now. I went back and forth on a number of games. I'm not kidding you guys. We pick 15 games every week. There was a real possibility that John's picks and my picks would have been the exact opposite on all 15 games. A couple of them I waffled on and went we almost picked every single game wrong. I mean, opposite of each other. That's something, and that is why I'm heading to first place. Just letting you know. Okay. Nobody wants to hear about our picks other than Doug Samuels, who's not with us today. Doug, not much of a bourbon aficionado. Doug went a little bourbon on Halloween night. Tells me, okay, this bourbon thing ain't so bad. John Brice is a bourbon aficionado. I tend to enjoy the brown water myself. So it has been suggested that rather than just bragging rights, maybe there's brown water on the line going forward. Brice, think about it. I'll think
about that. I like the fact that you're putting me on the public spot with this bourbon flotilla idea, and that you've done so after you've taken over, after you've usurped authority on the picks process. So we'll see. I'll ponder this.
Does last place have to purchase? Because that's going to be me, and I did not consent to this before I got way 4 games behind third place.
Scott did not ask to take this over. Zach suggested Scott take this over.
Yeah,
Zach was tired of doing picks. Moving right along. Friday night we got a doozy. Oregon State at Washington. I think it's a great football game. I'm looking forward to seeing if Oregon State can get back strength to full speed on the field. And if so, I like Oregon State. I know they've had some key injuries. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, this will be a great game, especially with the fact that it is a home game for the Huskies. That's the only thing that gives me a little bit of pause in that. But you guys know how I feel about Jonathan Smith and the coaching job that he's done there for the Beavers and what he's done in short order. Be a great game, but I think that Oregon State will be able to do just enough to pull it out.
I picked Oregon State, but now the more we talk about it, the more I think about it. Washington at home. These teams have exactly identical records. I went with Oregon State, but I think Washington has a better quarterback. I think they're at home. If I had to do it again, I'd probably take Washington. This and one other are probably the 2 biggest toss-ups of the weekend to me.
I waffled on this one as well.
Michael Penix, he's a good quarterback.
I like the Beavers. Find a way. I think they got a lot to prove. And this is TV. It's thankfully not Pac-12 network. People.
ESPN, right?
I think it's on the Deuce. Yeah, it's on the Deuce.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
Anyways, let's transition to Saturday. Let's talk about some big games, and we'll run through some other games. Let's start with Tennessee, Georgia. Anybody feel like watching that one?
Yeah, that's huge. Literally the biggest game in the history of Sanford Stadium, which is no small feat.
Wait, what?
No, it really is literally the biggest game in the history of Sanford Stadium. They have never hosted a 1 versus 3 contest of any ilk, let alone it being number 1 Tennessee in the CFP, number 3 Georgia in the CFP, or number 1 Georgia in the AP, and number 2 Tennessee in the AP. It is quite literally, by the records, the largest game in the history of Georgia football, in the history of Sanford Stadium, the largest home game. It is a game where I've got coaching friends down in Georgia. I've got people that live in and around Athens. There's an unofficial rallying cry from the Georgia Athletics Department all this week, and it's been going for a couple of weeks. Don't sell your tickets to Tennessee fans. They're trying to invade. Don't sell your tickets. There is truly a concerted effort by Georgia fans who have organized themselves not to resell their tickets, even at huge premiums, to Tennessee fans. So we'll see how successful they are Saturday in keeping the orange out. There will be at least 10,000 Tennessee fans there. There will be a lot more than that finding ways into the stadium. It's going to be a really phenomenal atmosphere. I think Georgia has to hit Hendon Hooker, and probably has to hit Hendon Hooker early to win this football game.
Yeah, to add on to what John said, so it's the 25th regular season 1 versus 2 game in the AP. Neither Tennessee nor Georgia have ever played in one of these in the regular season. Tennessee's only played in one period. That was the Tennessee-Florida State Fiesta Bowl to decide the 98 national title. Georgia's never played in one. They've played in national title games, but those were not 1 versus 2 AP games. So it's the biggest regular season game in either program's history. And like John, I think the first question of this game is Hendon Hooker, and I think what happens when Tennessee has the ball. If you're Georgia, do you trust, based on I think what John said, do you trust your front 5, front 4 to handle the pass rush and slow down Tennessee's running game? Like, do they think they can just man up on Tennessee's receivers and take their chances, covering those deep routes that Tennessee's going to throw and hit? Or do they feel like they need to give their secondary some help and potentially open up running lanes? That's the question to me that will decide the game.
There's no doubt in my mind Georgia will get home. They will get to Tennessee. Hendon Hooker is an absolute gamer. Dude plays through everything. I'm a big fan of him. I think he plays very well. I think Tennessee will have a great scheme plan, and I think it's a great game. I just think, and people might laugh at me after the fact, I think Tennessee finds a way with that offense right at the end of the game. I think if it comes down to last drive for both teams, I like Tennessee's shot of putting it in the end zone, personally.
Yeah, I mean, and how does Georgia respond to no Nolan Smith, their most effective pass rusher, their best sack specialist? He's done for the year. So how does Georgia respond to that absence? And then offensively, Georgia can't play from behind. So we saw Tennessee a couple of years ago under a different regime get up really early, 2 or 3 touchdowns at Georgia, and then get blown out in the second half. If Tennessee gets up early in this contest, a couple of touchdowns or more, I think Tennessee runs away with it. I really do. I just don't think that Georgia's offense is constructed to come from behind by 2+ touchdowns. Another key matchup for me is, can Tennessee's linebackers contain Georgia's tight ends? Georgia and Notre Dame, as Zach and I have debated and talked about, they have the 2 best tight ends in the country. They have the 2 best tight end rooms in the country. So to me, those are the things I'm watching. How much can Georgia affect Hendon Hooker without having to really dial up some crazy blitzes? And then how does Tennessee handle Georgia's tight ends?
It's funny you bring that up, the point about the Georgia offense. I mean, in points per drive, they're 4th. Yards per play, they're 4th. Yards per carry, they're 10th. So they don't hit as many 40-yard plays as Tennessee does. Really, nobody does, but they hit about the same number of explosive plays. Your 10-yard runs, your 20-yard completions. Their numbers there are pretty similar. So I think it's funny. Funny is not the right word, but I think it's interesting, Stetson Bennett's legacy at Georgia, because here's a guy who, former walk-on, all that stuff, wins the national title at Georgia, and it still feels like people are waiting for the other shoe to drop on him. And so if they fall behind like 2 scores, like John said, and they can't come back and win, there are going to be a lot of Georgia fans that want him out of there and want someone else to play quarterback. Now, having said that, I think, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Georgia comes out and wins this game, 45-31, something like that. And Stetson Bennett has a great game. He has that ability, but he also has the ability to turn it over 3 times.
Just like I was saying, I think I'm a big fan of Hendon Hooker. I'm a big fan of Stetson Bennett. All the dude does is win. Mm-hmm. He executes and wins, and he's a little quieter, whatever.
Yeah.
Great guy. All right. I find it very weird that there's even conversation in the great state of Georgia. Don't sell your tickets to Vol fans. Who in the world is going to sell a ticket to this game? Come on. No Georgia fans selling a ticket to this thing.
I'm just
Tennessee
telling
fans. I'll say, I think Tennessee fans, if you're looking at, the hungriest, most passionate fan base in college football, it's Tennessee. They want this more than anybody else does.
All right. I'm going to change the page, go to a different game. I'm going to come down here to Baton Rouge. So everybody, I think Nick just kind of owns the Tigers. And everybody separately saying Josh Heupel's got to be your coach of the year, right? Brian Kelly might just plant a flag and say, hey, I'm letting y'all know I'm picking the Tigers to win this game outright. If that happens, I know. Well, come on.
Is that a party flag? Is that like a cupcake flag?
Brian Kelly. If that happens, I don't know if you guys have seen the change in LSU's team. Let's see if it carries on this week. I think it's going to. I think LSU wins the game outright.
If LSU wins the game, they're home free, not home free, but they're clearly in the driver's seat to make the SEC championship game. Like, Alabama goes from the, strong consensus national title winner in preseason to not even winning the SEC West and basically are done for the playoff. That's the stakes for Alabama. And you're looking at maybe the most disappointing season in a long time in Alabama if they lose this game.
And if you look, Vegas still has Alabama among the national title favorites. But you're right. If they lose this game this weekend, their season's over. How much longer does Brice Young play if Alabama loses this game this weekend? How much does he further risk additional injury if Alabama loses? But we're talking a bunch of hypotheticals. The reality, the fact of the matter is that Alabama will win on Saturday, Scott, and there will be no flag planting, or if there is, it will be Big Al planting that mulleted A at midfield on that Tiger's eye.
Jaden Daniels' last 2 games, he's 44 of 60 for 597 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, 106 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns. I mean, that's 2 games, but those are Heisman numbers, stretched out over 2 games.
Yeah.
And Alabama's secondary is a weakness. Like it is a weakness for them. So this is not a foregone conclusion to me that Alabama's going to win.
Take away the Florida State game. So week 1, LSU's playing in the Superdome. They're just not on their game. They haven't figured out the right play calling for the quarterback. Special teams. Can't even speak about it. You throw that one out. Tennessee took them to the shed. And then Ole Miss was giving LSU everything it got. And then the second half, LSU was a different football team. If you carry that forward to this week, I'm telling you, I like the Tigers.
It started the second quarter against Ole Miss. I think it was from the second quarter on that LSU outscored Ole Miss like 42-3. So it wasn't even – they didn't wait for the half. The Tigers started the turnaround in the second quarter. But you lose by 4 touchdowns and are generally non-competitive at home against that same Tennessee team that played an epic with Alabama. I just like Alabama's firepower. And Jaden Daniels has looked much improved, but I think he comes back to earth against this Alabama defense a little bit. I think Will Anderson has a game-defining play.
I haven't seen weather forecast updated the past couple of days, but early in this week, the weather forecast was rain all day Saturday up until game time. And it was supposed to not really rain thereafter, but it's going to be a wet field. So things can get weird there. All right. I think is there any football played other than in the SEC?
Absolutely.
That's a joke. We're not homers. Moving right along. Clemson, Notre Dame. Give me some thoughts on this one, JB.
I think that in talking with people and talking with some ACC coaches this week, I don't think it's any shot, but this is not the same Clemson team we've grown accustomed to seeing in recent years. I don't think it's that same team on either side of the ball. But also Notre Dame has pronounced limitations on the offensive side of the ball and with quarterback Drew Pine. He's one of the gutsiest quarterbacks in college football. He's up there. He's got a Stetson Bennett-like quality to him, a Stetson Bennett-like background to him, but he doesn't have, frankly, Stetson Bennett's stature. He's a little bit of a smaller quarterback. So I think Notre Dame has a chance going into the fourth quarter to win this contest. My concern is Clemson able to turn over Drew Pine in the first half and cause a really catastrophic turnover. If Notre Dame plays relatively mistake-free, then I definitely think Notre Dame's defense is disruptive enough against either Clemson quarterback to give the Irish a chance to win this game in the fourth quarter. This is another game. Look, Notre Dame was overrated to start the season. I felt that when the Irish were number 5. I didn't see what they had lost, where they were transitioning at quarterback. I didn't see that. But I also didn't see coming losses to Marshall and Stanford. This is one final chance at redemption for the season as a whole for Notre Dame. And it would set up a potentially huge contest to close November at Southern Cal, in which Southern Cal at that point in time could still be playing for its playoff life.
To your point, John, so if you look at net yards per play, which is just number of yards per play you gain minus the number of yards per play you allow, top 6 teams in that metric in the country are Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and TCU. So 6 of the top 7 in the playoff. Mm-hmm. And then Clemson is 34th, 1 spot below South Alabama. So that just screams fraud right there. That's what.
Yeah, I thought Clemson was look, they're undefeated. It is what it is. But I thought Clemson was vastly overrated this week in the CFP.
No arguments. I struggle with which Notre Dame team we're going to see. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a really interesting ballgame. I think it's going to be a very good ballgame.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Zach, give me some thoughts on Can Texas Tech challenge TCU?
Can they challenge them? Yes. Can they beat them? I think TCU would have to really gag this one away. You're looking at a Texas Tech team that just had a blackout game at home against Baylor and got blown out. A Texas Tech team that quarterback has kind of been a revolving door due to health and inexperience and all that sorts of things. Now, can they go on the road to Fort Worth and play what should be a pissed off TCU team? I don't know, and I think to stop this TCU offense at this point, they're going to have to give you something because they're just so good at what they do, particularly running the ball with Kendre Miller. It would be the performance of a lifetime if Texas Tech goes on the road and beats TCU at home.
My transition. Wake Forest had one of the most inexplicable games of the season, at the very least, last week. You got to go to NC State. What happens in this game?
Yep. Who is NC State at this point? Forget the Devin Leary injury. Who is NC State that had to stage a miraculous comeback to beat a completely rebuilding Virginia Tech team and be lucky to win that game 22-21 at home? I know you're on the Pack in this contest, presumably because they are the home squad in this, but I just don't see Wake Forest laying eggs 2 weeks in a row. Have too much respect for Dave Clawson, too much respect and admiration for Sam Hartman, and they're not going to come out and have 8 turnovers again the way that we've seen Miami and Wake in back-to-back weeks. Power 5 teams have 8 turnover games, including the 6 turnover quarter that included a pair of pick sixes by Wake this past weekend.
Yeah, so I think the story with NC State is obviously they lost Devin Leary and they went to the backup Jack Chambers, who is I believe a graduate transfer from Charleston Southern. He, I'm sure, is a fine young man, was not getting the job done. He was completing like 50% of his passes for nothing yardage. So they put in freshman MJ Morris, who saved the Virginia Tech game for them. 265 yards, 3 touchdowns. So that saved the game, saved the back half of their season. So having said that, I'm on Wake, and I still think Wake wins. I just have too much faith in Sam Hartman to do that again.
Yes, I just can't explain Wake. I think NC State finds a way. Okay. We'll see. Not a game I feel real strongly about. Okay, this one's going to get weird in my opinion. UCF is at Memphis. Everything tells you UCF should win. Except UCF loses some weird games.
They do.
Memphis is backed all the way up. They've got to get a win. And I'm going with the Tigers based on they got to find this win. If not, the wheels are off. It's over.
Yeah.
So they got to get this. I'm picking Memphis.
Yeah, Memphis Beyond has its back against the wall. The back has become part of the wall at this point in time. And the Tigers have to find a way to shove off. The discontentment is percolating in that program. And you're right, UCF always has some inexplicable losses. I believe that loss occurred a couple of weeks ago when they were really throttled by ECU. I think the way that UCF found a way to win last week against Cincinnati shows me that the Knights have the resolve to win this game at Memphis.
Agree. I agree with John.
So Kansas State just whitewashed Oklahoma State. Just unbelievable. Now they get Texas coming to Manhattan, and all y'all pick Texas.
I know, it's crazy. Now, I will say I solicited a little help this week from a former college coach on my picks, and this is one of the games I flat out didn't listen to him. He told me to take K-State. He was adamant take K-State, and I said, I appreciate your help, and I took Texas. We will see which of us is right, but 99 times out of 100, it's the former college coach and not the current sports writer.
So I've got a crazy analogy in regards to where Texas is at. Do y'all want to hear it?
Of course.
Okay. So I believe I was reading Game of Thrones the other day or some sort of war-related, and it occurred to me that it's good to treat prisoners of war well, obviously, because you want to be a decent human being. It's the right thing to do. But also, it's in your own best interest to treat prisoners of war well because otherwise you're incentivizing enemy combatants to fight to the death, and it's going to be much more difficult to kill them, and they're going to kill some of your guys. Okay? That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So Texas is in the opposite situation to where even if they get up on a lead, get a lead in the second half, the other sideline is going to know, all right, guys, they're not going to, if we fight back, we're going to be able to kill them. If we fight back, turn the tide, they're going to shut down, and eventually things are going to go our way. Like, getting up in an early lead is a situation where a lot of teams should feel confident, like, all right, this game's going our way. If Texas gets up 31-17, it's going to be like, okay, so what bad's going to happen now that we're going to gag this game away? I don't know if that analogy makes sense to anyone but me, but that's the demon that Texas has to fight here. They should be able to go up and run the ball on K-State. And this K-State offense, they played obviously fantastic against Oklahoma State. Tulane and Iowa State found ways to shut them down. Texas has the personnel, but can they defeat that own voice in their head to get K-State to submit at some point in the fourth quarter?
Spoken like a true Longhorn fan. Coming straight out of the Let's Get Weird playbook, Syracuse is at Pitt. Nothing will be normal in this game.
No, absolutely not. And Pitt really fighting for any semblance left of a successful season. Got up early last week on North Carolina, and then the Tar Heels just ran away from them. This is a Pitt team that frankly hasn't been healthy since the Tennessee game, and it's been a residual. And honestly, if you talk to coaches and people at Pitt, that Tennessee game probably has cost Pitt 2 to 3 games on the season. They lost to the Vols in overtime, but they lost a couple more games simply because of how much they got beaten up in that contest. I still don't think Pitt is healthy. Obviously, Garrett Schrader and whether or not he plays for Syracuse is a key element for the Orange as well. I think you might be on an island with Pitt, or no, I guess I'm on an island with Syracuse. So we'll see.
Yeah, where's Syracuse at mentally after starting so strong and then losing, the 2 biggest games on their schedule? And I mean, for a while there, they were just, if you go from when they were up 21-7 against Clemson to where they fell down 17-0 against Notre Dame, something like that. I mean, they were outscored like 45-7 at some point in the most pivotal moments of their season. So where are they?
Yeah,
right now.
I went back and forth, left and right, up and down on Oklahoma State, Kansas. It seems so clear Oklahoma State's such the better team and better positioned, but what happened? I don't know.
I don't know that Spencer Sanders is going to play this week. Like, I'm not reporting anything, but I wouldn't be, based on what this dude's been fighting through, like, I would not be surprised if Spencer Sanders is throwing his last pass as a Cowboy.
Wow, that is stunning. One thing we have evinced very clearly on this podcast over the course of this season is our collective and individual respect for Mike Gundy and the job that he's done at Oak State. So when I look at that game, and I know health is an issue, I also look at, we never see Mike Gundy teams really lay 2 stinkers in a row. And so it's as simple as that for me. I don't think that was Kansas the Sunflower State. I don't think this is the year that the Sunflower State comes raiding Oklahoma State football.
You learn things on the FootballScoop podcast every week.
Like who's in first. Not who's on first, but who's in first.
We will discuss the same next week.
I'm sick.
I'm looking at a couple of Pac-12 games real fast. Arizona's going to Utah.
Arizona
Better's okay, but
yeah.
Can they get a real win?
Yeah. Utah by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Arizona State has UCLA coming to town.
Yeah. I mean,
Jake guys got that one.
Yeah.
He should have that one. But Aguayo has his guys, I think I said his name properly. He's got Arizona State playing with some character and some fortitude.
We've talked about Cal being a nice little football team just without enough horses. They're
Especially
at USC.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Moving right along. Tulane's got Tulsa. I love that Tulane's in the top 25. That's fantastic. Moving right along. Let's see what else we missed, gentlemen. North Carolina's at Virginia. Kentucky, Missouri. Give me some thoughts there. That's
Kentucky is really, really beaten up. I was pretty arrogant, frankly, last week about the fact that I was extremely confident Tennessee would handle them, that Tennessee would really run them out of Neyland Stadium. And Tennessee did. They deposited Kentucky alongside the goalpost in the Tennessee River, just ran Big Blue straight out of the stadium. And Big Blue is really, really beaten up. Chris Rodriguez is still dinged up. I think their top two linebackers, DeAndre Squire and the Johnson guy, are very much questionable for this contest. Missouri, to your credit, Scott, you called it last week. Missouri went to Columbia, the Eastern Columbia, and won the Mayor's Cup. They need some momentum. It's a huge opportunity game for Missouri and the Tigers, and I think Missouri finds a way this week to get it done, most especially because of the injuries and how the season has gone off the rails for Kentucky.
Yeah, Missouri's held its last three opponents to below 300 yards of total offense. And what scares you on Kentucky's offense right now? So I picked Missouri. I think they win a 2014 type game.
I feel the same way. Florida goes to A&M.
Yeah.
A&M galvanized off that stirring loss to Ole Miss.
Exactly. The sarcasm, if sarcasm came with visual effects on our podcast, it would be right now your words literally dripping out of your mouth. That's what sarcasm looks like.
By birth, he has to do that.
I don't know that A&M has a healthy quarterback right now. So I don't know who plays at quarterback for A&M and how much they play and how well they play. I believe Anthony Richardson is not at 100% because, you've got to. I mean, if you're watching that Ole Miss tape, you got to love his ability to run the ball if he can play at his ability to run the ball. Because we talked on Sunday about how Jackson Dart just killed them on third and longs. The A&M defense just gave up 390 rushing yards. So having said that, I picked A&M to win, and I can't give you a good reason why, but I think the A&M, despite being 3-5, I think they're in a better place, at least right now, emotionally, than you might assume.
I picked A&M strictly because of the defense. This is one where technically I also disagreed with my secret advisor. He was adamant that he believed A&M would win. I believed that Florida would win, but I listened to him this time, even though I disagreed with him. So, but yeah, I think A&M wins because of the defense and because of home field. And look, I was way wrong last week. I looked okay in the first half when A&M got out to a 14-7 lead and then a 14-10 lead for a really long time and sort of steadied itself. And Connor Wigman did some good things. They finally broke their streak of not having scored over 24 points in a game. Getting this contest at home is strictly the only reason I picked the Aggies, along with that defense.
Go Gator. All right. Iowa's at Purdue. This one, I don't know. I just don't know. I feel like it's a collapse moment for Iowa. If they fail, I think it's too big for them to lose this game. I think Iowa finds a way. I'm not sure what that is. I think they probably will score a touchdown. It's going to take more points than that to beat Purdue. Purdue's going to score a little bit. Iowa's D's good. I think Iowa just scraps and finds a way.
I think it's a trap game of sorts for Purdue with some relative success that the Boilers have had and what the Boilers are trying to finish out with this season. But having said all that, I think Purdue wins like 31-26. I think it's a hotly contested game all the way through to the end of the fourth quarter. But when Purdue needs to actually score, I like Purdue's offensive competency to carry the day.
I can't take Iowa against any sort of team with a pulse. The offense, I just can't. I'm willing to be wrong about the Iowa offense.
I think Iowa finds a way. I don't know what it is. It might be a block punt. Who knows? Maryland's at Wisconsin. I got some thoughts on the whole Jim Leonard thing. I don't think I want to go into them right here. I think we should do a separate podcast on that. I think Maryland goes in there and beats them. I'm looking for thoughts.
what Mike Locksley has done to get the Terps to a bowl game last year, have them back in position for that, and an even better postseason destination this year, I think is really commendable. I think that Maryland has the offense to outlast Wisconsin. It's not a game that we had to pick, but I would pick Wisconsin in this game. I think in Madison, the Badgers find a way to get it done.
I think if Talia was more healthy, I'd feel more confident in Maryland. I'm riding with Wisconsin, but that's a home field deal. If this game was at Maryland, I'd probably take Maryland.
Yeah.
Baylor's at Oklahoma. Just a complete toss-up for me.
I think this is the biggest toss-up of the weekend because you've got two teams that are playing, of late, pretty good football. Like Oklahoma had its most complete performance of the season at Iowa State last week, winning 27-13. So this is Oklahoma is one win away from being they figured something out type team. With Dylan Gabriel, they have the potential to be a top 20 team. Baylor, as mentioned before, blew out Texas Tech on the road last week. So I'll plant my flag that these are both top 25-ish teams, and it's being aired on ESPN Plus. So no one will see it.
44-38. That's what type of game this is going to be. I think Zach and I maybe picked Baylor, and the other two of you picked Oklahoma. I can't remember, but I think it's going to be.
So you two picked Baylor.
I'm on Baylor.
Okay.
Yeah. I picked Oklahoma with Doug. Right. I think Oklahoma wins something. I think it's a little bit lower scoring. I think 34-27 Oklahoma.
All right.
I think Baylor's just got some grit, some fight that I know. I think Baylor finds a way.
Yeah.
That's just what I'm saying.
This is a 50-50 game.
All right. Real quick thoughts. Hugh Freeze goes to Arkansas.
I was about to say, are we skipping over the Liberty Arkansas game, which is a great contest and certainly two contrasting styles of play on the field, two contrasting styles on the coach's headset. I'm excited for this contest. I think it's one of the sneaky good, most underrated, compelling matchups of the weekend. It's absolutely of sorts an audition contest for Hugh Freeze, and we all know that.
I typed in Liberty to send my picks in. Once I got to the Y, I was like, I can't go against SEC athletes. It's nothing against Hugh Freeze, but I mean, Arkansas has 85 SEC athletes. How many SEC level athletes does Liberty have?
I think I leaned Arkansas in this game, not because of the athletes, because Hugh has elevated the profile. I leaned Arkansas in this game because of the physicality, because I think the Hogs have more meat where it matters on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking. Not necessarily just a team speed type deal. It's just big
stature.
Big bodies that I don't think Liberty can have. So I could see Liberty taking a lead into the third quarter, but I think Arkansas just wears them down.
First couple seasons at Ole Miss, Hugh Freeze won a bunch of games without any SEC athletes. Hey, I'm on Hugh Freeze and Liberty here.
You had SEC athletes. Orgeron had stocked those cupboards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Houston Nutt or whoever it was.
Troy's going to Louisiana Lafayette. Louisiana Lafayette would like to be known as Louisiana. I live in Louisiana and no one calls them that. Anyway, Troy is going to Lafayette. In the past, Lafayette wins that game darn near every season. I think Troy goes in there and beats them.
Yeah, John Summerall's team doesn't plant the flag, it plants the sword this week at Lafayette. Continues to have a really special season. They've had a couple of extra days of preparation for this, having won that Thursday night game, I believe it was last week or so.
Yep.
I like Troy in this contest.
There was a time earlier this year when I believe we had a award winner, Coach of the Year award winner from Louisiana. And I think if I remember correctly, Scott, you reached out to someone at the program, and the first thing you responded was, "Hey, can you tell Zach Barnett that we're Louisiana and not Louisiana Lafayette?" So I think Troy beats Louisiana, period.
When they lost to Louisiana Monroe,
they added the Lafayette
back nationwide. the conference did it. Everybody did it. You can't lose to Louisiana Monroe and then call yourself University of Louisiana.
Fair. I agree. Fair.
Moving on. Houston, SMU. We got a couple more quick games. Houston is at SMU.
A lot of these, there's a lot of excitement. Here in Texas, a lot of college football hipsters try and hype up both these teams. I think they're both extremely average, to be honest with you. Houston could win, SMU could win. I'll ride with Houston because they're at home, but I don't think either one of these teams are conference title real contenders in that league.
Agreed. Two more quick.
Yeah, I would just add on that contest. Continue to pay attention to Doug Belk, though, and what he's able to do. I think that he'll be a major factor in that Charlotte coaching search. Doug Belk, of course, the Houston defensive coordinator, widely considered one of the rising stars on either side of the ball in college football. So I'll pay attention to that game a little bit extra because I think Doug Belk's a head coach sooner rather than later.
Two more good games. JMU, James Madison's at Louisville.
Louisville, I mean, another must-win for them. They won a must-win game against Wake and did it in spectacular fashion. You can't turn around and lose to JMU when you've got Clemson ahead, you got Kentucky ahead. I think they have NC State ahead as well. So you got to get this one as well. You got to keep it rolling.
Yeah, and NC State is the only of those other three games that you referenced, Zach, that is a home game for the Cardinals. So, yeah, they've got to win this game. They need this win to cement bowl eligibility. And then after that, they continue to play a little bit with house money. But kudos to Scott Satterfield. And they revealed a peek inside the locker room last week after their win against Wake and sort of showed some of the journey to get back to this point where there was so much exterior noise, where there's so much pressure, where it seemed a foregone conclusion that Louisville would have to make a change. But starting from the way this team rallied from behind at Virginia last month, it has really been a different team and a different program. And I think Louisville wins and Scott Satterfield continues to take the necessary steps to get another season at Louisville.
Good. All right, last one I got, and then if you guys want to run by any other quick ones. Florida State's playing Miami. Miami's been quite a sorry. Ooh, we're not allowed to talk about Miami's offense. Florida State's playing Miami. Any thoughts?
I think it's a must-win game for Mike Norvell. Like you can't allow a positive step forward type season to devolve to. You can't lose this Miami team. You just can't do it. Miami is a mess, but it's a year one mess. Florida State has to win this game.
It's at Miami, but you're right, Zach. I completely agree with you. This is everything for the Florida State win over LSU that looks even better now than it did at the time. You still nonetheless have to find a way to win this contest.
Gentlemen, it's going to be an outstanding week of games. Any other quick ones you guys want to touch on, or we're shutting this baby down?
To start the day, Air Force could lock up the Commander-in-Chief's trophy for the first time since 2016 if they can beat Army. They've already beaten Navy, so it's opportunity is right there for the Falcons.
Yeah, not a great season for any of the three, to be honest. Yeah.
But if you win that, then you've accomplished something. So
agreed.
Yeah, South Dakota State. You guys know that I love the FCS ball. South Dakota State has a sneaky good game at Northern Iowa. I will absolutely be following the box score, the game cast on that. And then we've got Jackson State going to Texas Southern. Texas Southern is much improved. We know that Dion is telling his guys, you're not leaving the hotel room. Again, I continue to be really impressed with Dion for what he does and how he approaches trying to mentor those kids in all phases of life, not just on the football field. I think that's a significant matchup. And then Central Arkansas and Eastern Kentucky, another FCS matchup I'm excited to watch because one of those two programs is going to still be in position to challenge for a playoff berth. It would represent a breakthrough season for either of them. So those are three FCS games off the top of my head that I'm pretty fired up for this weekend.
The Football Scoop podcast every week gets better. I can't wait to see Vols, Georgia, LSU, Bama, as always. First weekend in November. Let's do this. I'm Scott Roussel on Football Scoop. Or on Twitter, I'm at FootballScoop. He's at Zach _Barnett. John D. Brice 1. Gentlemen, we're out. Have a great weekend, everybody.